Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And after rumors popped up last week about PlayStation shutting down their legacy stores such as the PS3, PSP, and Vita store, fans were not exactly happy about that, and rightfully so. It is very disappointing and concerning, but there was some hope that maybe that rumor was wrong. Well, we got an official answer today from Sony themselves, meaning that yes, the rumor was true after all. But there is a small positive here, and we're going to go over that and what all of this means later on in the video. What I will say right now is, after reading the statement that Sony put out, it could have been so much worse, so yes, there is a positive here as well. Also, Nintendo had a massive week with a couple of their games. Now, it's no secret that the Switch has been dominating the game industry, and we're seeing more of that success with Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah, big surprise there, but we will talk about that and some other Nintendo-related news as well. With that said, let's start this week off with a new release, It Takes Two. So, It Takes Two released on March 26, the same day that Monster Hunter Rise released, and it's kind of being overshadowed right now, but just wow. I've been playing this game all weekend with my friend, and just as a quick review, this is an absolutely amazing game. This is one of the most creative games that I've ever played in my entire life, and I've played a lot of games. I'm constantly surprised by the creativity in It Takes Two. Not many games surprise me anymore, and that's one of the reasons this game has blown me away, and to make it better, it's legit one of the best cooperative games available right now. Yes, it is a mandatory cooperative game, but if your friend downloads a free friend pass from the digital store, as long as you own it, he or she can play with you completely free of charge. It's got a fun story about a troubled marriage, the platforming feels fantastic, and seriously, this game is amazing, and that's why I wanted to talk about it just real quick. I didn't really want to make a whole new video about this, but in short, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, and you should definitely check this game out. My only real complaint is, I wish it was a little bit more difficult, but everything else was just absolutely perfect. Moving on, Mystwalker, the studio behind Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, and The Last Story, has been in the news quite a bit in the last few weeks. Mystwalker, of course, is getting ready to release their new JRPG for Apple Arcade, Fantasian. Now, I'm not necessarily sold on the idea of releasing Fantasian exclusively for Apple Arcade, and I'm still hoping that it will eventually come to consoles, but admittedly, this game looks really good. That's not really a big surprise because I know Mystwalker is very talented, and the father of Final Fantasy himself, Hironobu Sakaguchi, is working on Fantasian. He always seems to deliver in a quality experience, and I am a big fan of Mystwalker, as Lost Odyssey is one of my all-time favorite JRPGs. And over the years, I have seen some fans ask for remasters of some of their past games, but it looks like that is unlikely to happen. Hironobu Sakaguchi, while talking to the Video Game Chronicles, had this to say. To be perfectly honest, there aren't any plans for any remakes at this moment. Although they're called remakes, the amount of effort and resources it would command means the difference is basically nil between a remake versus a completely new game. I would personally find myself more attracted to the idea of coming up with another original story or world, or building something new. And okay, that's actually the perfect response in my opinion. I completely agree with him here for a few different reasons. I actually think Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon have aged incredibly well. Lost Odyssey's cutscenes are a little bit different, but thanks to the wonderful Xbox backwards compatibility, you can still pick these games up on the Xbox Series or Xbox One, and they still look good. I'd highly recommend them even for today's standards. Now, The Last Story, that's the one that maybe could benefit from a remaster considering it's locked to the Nintendo Wii and Wii U through backwards compatibility, but at the same time, if Hironobu Sakaguchi has a chance to work on a new game, I'd much rather his genius go to something like that instead. For that matter, hey Xbox, go talk to Mystwalker and convince them to do a Lost Odyssey sequel. I mean, come on, let's make this happen. In the meantime, I'm gonna cross my fingers for a Fantasian console and PC port. More Mystwalker games is always a good thing. Next up, we have a big Battlefield leak to talk about, as a prominent Battlefield leaker, Tom Henderson, released a lot of new information on DICE's upcoming game. Now, with any kind of leak, you have to take this with a grain of salt until proven true, but because he has a reputation in the Battlefield community, I thought we could at least go over it today. What we do know for a fact is that EA plans to release the next Battlefield in 2021, and Criterion is helping DICE achieve this. Other than that, we're still waiting for an official reveal, but we did get some new information with this new leak. Tom Henderson claims that this next Battlefield will simply be named Battlefield. There will be no number in this game, making it more of a soft reboot. This has been a trend here recently with different publishers. EA did that with Need for Speed, and then also Activision did that with Battlefield's biggest competitor, Call of Duty. I really don't know if these soft reboots work or not in terms of revitalizing a franchise, but I mean, we are seeing different franchises do this type of thing. The name doesn't really matter to me all that much, to be honest, but what's interesting about this soft reboot is that apparently it will have a revamped campaign. There's always this discussion on whether or not Battlefield needs a single-player component or not, but according to Tom Henderson, Battlefield will have a campaign where you can choose who you fight for. It's set 10 years from now, which allows DICE to incorporate weapons and technology that are currently in development, and there's 2 superpowers that you can fight for, the United States or Russia. You even have the option to play it cooperatively, which is a nice touch if true. As for the multiplayer, it's being explained as Battlefield 3 and 4 on steroids. We do know it's going to have 128 players, so I mean, that does make sense. It is going to be a rather large upgrade in terms of player count. Previous games had 64, and that is a big jump to 128 players. I'm very interested to see how that plays out in team battles. That is going to be insane, but for you Battle Royale fans, they are apparently bringing that back with a new name this time. It will not be Firestorm. One change that they're making, though, is with the class of soldiers. You will still be able to play as 4 different classes, but instead of just having unique gadgets, you will also have unique abilities. He explains it as kind of being like Call of Duty perks, but we will have to wait and see how that comes together in the full release. Either way, if all this turns out to be true, there's a lot to be excited for. I mean, it sounds pretty good on paper and everything, and now we just need to see it in action. As always, though, keep in mind this is just a rumor until proven true. Let's talk about PlayStation though, as we have a few PlayStation related topics. As mentioned earlier, PlayStation has officially put out a statement notifying fans that the PS3, PSP, and Vita store will all close in 2021. The PS3 and PSP store will close on July 2nd, while the Vita store will close on August 27th. And right away, this is not an ideal situation. There's a lot of disappointment with this move among fans for preservation reasons. If you do not pick up a specific game digitally and then discover it later, you will not have a chance to download that game after each store is shut down. What makes this worse is that Sony quietly shut down the web version of the old PlayStation Store last week. I noticed this last Friday when trying to pick up some Vita games digitally. I was able to view the old store the week before, but now the old URL no longer works and redirects you to the new store instead. Why is this an issue though? Well, for the Vita in specific, that storefront does have some problems on the actual console where certain games just don't show up at all. The way you could get around that was by going to the web version of the Vita store, then buy it on there and then download it on your Vita. Because Sony shut that down last week though, certain games are no longer available on the Vita store, such as Suikoden 2. Now from my understanding, you can still buy it on the PS3 and then transfer it to the Vita, so that is a possibility if you own both. I still don't like that they quietly closed the web version last week though. I mean, technically, they did that last year, but there was a backdoor that they have now also closed. I wish they would have waited to do that after each store closes officially. There is a small positive here though. Thankfully, Sony has decided that any game that you've purchased digitally, you will be able to re-download that game even after each store closes. That is a huge sigh of relief. I am a big fan of the Vita, so I'm definitely going to go back and rebuy some games digitally because of this. And the thing is you don't have to worry about having multiple memory cards to keep all your games on, or if your memory card gets corrupted or whatever. As long as you have access to your account, you will be able to re-download your games. So that is a positive here, and truthfully, this could have been so much worse. Now, that doesn't mean this is great news or anything like that, but we can at least re-download our games, and that is a small positive. This once again, though, brings up that digital versus physical debate, and what's better? Fans who buy physical copies don't have to worry about that type of thing, but as always, digital is more convenient for a lot of people. Either way, though, if there are any games that you want to own digitally, you better grab them while you can. Prices of physical games do have a tendency of being a little bit more pricey depending on how rare the game is, and that's where digital comes in if you want to save some money on games like that. As an example, I believe Uncharted Golden Abyss is a little bit more expensive if you want to buy that physically on the Vita. If you buy it digitally though, you will get a much better price. Let me know what you think about all this though in the comments below. Do you feel a little bit better now that you know that you can re-download your games, or are you still very upset with this move by PlayStation? Now, we do have some good news for PlayStation though, as Insomniac Games announced an update for Ratchet and Clank 2016. It will be getting a 60 FPS update for the PS5 in April. This game from a visual standpoint already looks insanely good on the PS4. It actually surprised me by how good this game looked on the PS4 when it first released, and with that 60 FPS update on the PS5, it will legit feel like a next generation experience. I'm very happy about this update, and I hope PlayStation continues to do this with their first party games. So far we've seen that with God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone, and now Ratchet and Clank 2016. Hopefully Bloodborne eventually gets something like that, but I guess we'll see. Now, Ratchet & Clank 2016 isn't necessarily my favorite in the franchise, but it's a solid game that you might want to check out on your PS5. Again, the update will be available in April, and you can pick up Ratchet & Clank completely free through March 31st. If you haven't already done that, you might want to do that now. On to our final topic though, Nintendo had another massive week. Monster Hunter Rise of course launched just a few days ago on March 26, and to nobody's surprise, it got off to a very fast start. Check this out. Monster Hunter Rise has already shipped 4 million units worldwide, and it's being estimated that it could have sold nearly 1.8 million copies in Japan alone. That is absurd, and what makes this even crazier is that reportedly, Monster Hunter Rise has been selling out in Japan. Now, I've been saying it for months now. Monster Hunter is massive in Japan, but it's very rare to see games sell out that quick. For comparison's sake though, Monster Hunter World shipped 5 million units in the same time frame, but that was on 2 consoles as opposed to Rise, which is exclusive to the Switch for the time being. That's not a huge difference considering it's only on one platform, though it'll be interesting to see how well it can sell in the long run compared to Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World went on to sell more than 16 million units and probably much more than that now. With that said, I'll be very curious to see what Rise can do in the long run. If you have any predictions, let me know in the comments below. Will it sell more than 10 million units, and can it reach at least 15 million? Let me know in the comments below. That wasn't the only success Nintendo had last week though. Nintendo has been pretty blatant as of recent that Mario 3D All-Stars will be discontinued after March 31st. This is the day that the internet has dubbed the day Mario dies. Mario 3D All-Stars will no longer be available on the eShop, and once physical copies sell out, that'll be it. Stock will not be replenished. Well, the community knows this, and that's why in the UK, Mario 3D All-Stars saw a 276% increase in box sales and reached the number 2 best-selling game in the UK behind only Monster Hunter Rise. We'll probably see something like this for this week as well, as time is quickly running out for a purchase of this collection. Now, I'm not necessarily a big fan of these limited time releases, especially pulling them off the eShop, but it's pretty clear that this limited time release has been successful for Nintendo. I just hope this doesn't become a trend going forward. Nintendo explains this release as a celebration and that's why they're discontinuing it, but it just doesn't sit well for me. Nintendo makes great games that are timeless, and I wish this game would be more readily available to people who don't own the Switch yet. The Switch will still sell tens of millions of units, and all those new customers will sadly miss out on this release unless they can find a copy. It is what it is, I guess, but I really hope this doesn't become an ongoing trend. I guess we'll find out later this year if Nintendo tries to do it again with that rumored Zelda collection release. We'll see what happens with that if that is indeed true. Either way though, Nintendo did have a massive week with both Monster Hunter Rise and Mario, so big congrats for that. On to the poll of the day though, I wanted to see what game you all are most excited for that's releasing in April. There are quite a few high-profile games planned for April, and what you all seem most excited for is Outriders. In fact, 50% of you all are ready to play Outriders. And okay, that game does look pretty good. I'm going to try it out thanks to Xbox Game Pass. I probably would have skipped out on it otherwise, but That's the genius of launching your game into Xbox Game Pass day one. You suddenly get a lot more fans talking about a game like this, and your community grows exponentially. You gotta love Xbox Game Pass, but for me, as a big Pokemon Snap fan, I'm really looking forward to new Pokemon Snap. I also love Nier, and I'm interested in Returnal as well. I just think it's going to be a really fun month all around, and I'm ready to play some of these games. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.